America.
Welcome back to the AstraVision show. My name is Malik Harris.
And my name is Mackie Totacini.
And today we have a special episode on the AstraVision show where you come to
Vibe with the tribe.
Today we have a special episode because we are diving into more Marvel content. But this is more like a crossbreed episode, right? Because we got the inspiration because of Marvel Rivals. Because of Marvel Rivals, and just really what it was, right, is when the game dropped, I saw Luna Snow, and I thought that I knew Marvel, and I was like, who the fuck is this? And then next thing you know, I was like, do I even know anything about Marvel? So yeah, it got the inspiration of diving into this whole series as far as like just dissecting the characters, going more on their history, the same way that we do like League of Legends lore, the same way that we were starting to get into Warhammer's lore. Now we're going into Marvel lore individually and separating it up. So if you guys like this type of video, let us know, hit the subscribe button, post in the comments, and we will continue this series as far as like dissecting the characters and stuff that are more prevalent to the things that are happening in bigger pop culture medium. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So.
And for today's subject, we are starting with Moon Knight.
Yes. Moon Knight, the history of Moon Knight. For those who don't know, I love Moon Knight. It's one of my mains in Marvel Rival right now. So.
And if you haven't seen it, we've done a reaction to the actual series on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go see that before you actually watch this whole show, you're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, check it out before, check it out after. It's really good. I'll link it at the end of this video. But yeah, we're not going to talk too much. We'll just jump into it, and then we'll talk more about Moon Knight and comics he's appeared in and different things like that. And yeah.
Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com. Today on Variant, it's finally happening. I'm giving you guys what you wanted, the history of Moon Knight.
Variant is a great channel if you want to dive deeper into like the comic lore and everything like that. I used to watch my mans I was just talking over here. When I first got into filmmaking, little side note, little fun fact here.
A little history and Malik Harris.
Yeah. When I was first getting into filmmaking, really start taking it serious before we put out any short films or anything like that, I used to watch Film Riot, he was on the Film Riot channel. Mm-hmm. Actually, I used to send those videos to you guys. And they used to just jump into like special effects and show how to use like different sound pieces and all that good stuff. And then he came over and started working with this channel. I don't know if he's just a member, if he started this, I'm not really sure. But he started diving deeper into this. So it's nice seeing him again giving instruction and whatnot. Have a long 9-10 year history of with him and Film Riot, and then Domain. That was our first website, you know what I mean? So it goes deep, but they really know what they're talking about. So if you guys want to check out these videos, I will put this in the comment below too, and you guys can like do your own research and stuff. I definitely recommend going and check out their other videos, as well as after you guys watch this one.
Hands down, the two most requested history of episodes have been Spawn, which I did several months ago, and a History of Moon Knight episode. And since I already did Spawn, that leaves me with Moon Knight. And don't worry, I'll get to other requested characters all in due time, but as for today, it's all about Moon Knight. Moon Knight was created by writer Doug Munch and artist Don Perlin, and his first... And since I already did Spawn, that leaves me with Moon Knight. And
you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we already watched like the series and kind of like know like a little bit of history of him, but like I haven't really seen any of the or read any of the comic series comments to Moon Knight, so I'm really interested to see like how much more in depth that he'll go into it. So
yeah.
Don't worry, I'll get to other requested characters all in due time, but as for today, it's all about Moon Knight.
Moon Knight has a crazy history.
Moon Knight was created by writer Doug Munch and artist Don Perlin, and his first appearance was in Werewolf by Night issue 32 in 1975. Originally, he appeared as an enemy of the character in a 2-issue story arc. However, Moon Knight proved to be so popular that due to reader demand, he returned to guest star in Marvel Spotlight, Spectacular Spider-Man, Marvel 2-in-1, and The Defenders, which helped define his background before he gained his own run as a backup feature in Hulk magazine. He was then finally given his own solo comic book series in 1980. Moon Knight has had several different ongoings since then, and of course has evolved quite a bit as a character, but now let's see what his comic book origin is. Moon Knight's real name is Mark Spector, and he was born in Chicago, Illinois. As an adult, Spector spends his time training to be a heavyweight boxer, a U.S. Marine, and a mercenary. He becomes a skilled combatant and best friends with the French pilot Jean-Paul Deschamps, who he calls Frenchie. While working for the African mercenary Raoul Bushman in Egypt, the group stumbles upon an archaeological dig whose crew includes Dr. Peter Alran and his daughter Marlene. The dig had uncovered an ancient temple where artifacts included a statue of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu. But of course, Bushman wants the gold that will be found at the tomb and could care less about anything else. Dr. Al-Ran finds out about this and tries to stop him, but Bushman ends up snapping his neck. In response to Al-Ran's murder, Spectre attacks Bushman but is beaten to near death and left to die in the sub-zero temperatures of the desert night. Roaming Egyptians who worship the ancient Egyptian gods find Spectre and carry him to their temple. Helpless before the statue of Khonshu, Spectre's heart stops. Khonshu appears to him in a vision, offering Spectre a second chance at his life if he becomes the god's avatar of Earth. Spectre awakens, wraps himself with the silver shroud that covers Khonshu's statue, and again confronts Bushman. After defeating Bushman, Mark returns to the US with Marlene and Frenchie, along with the statue of Khonshu.
Pause right there, because if you guys have watched the show, or if you guys haven't watched the show, that is all covered in the show. I'm guessing that they're probably going to speed past this. The show doesn't take place in this exact time period. It takes place in a different spot, but it will go back and cover this history. So yeah, I feel like this is a stopping point. I actually have the R-rated Werewolf by Night as well, which is, yeah, it's also really good. If I would have known that they were going to talk about it here, I would have put that up here somewhere. But yeah, the reason we have these comics as well is because Moon Knight is part of like the whole supernatural side of Marvel Comics, for those of you who don't know. So you have Blade, you have Ghost Rider, you have Daredevil, you have just a bunch of people. Moon Knight Suns will be coming into like the cinematic world and stuff like that in the future, I'm sure. So
hopefully they'll bring the skin to Marvel Rivals.
Yeah,
that would be sick.
The Midnight Suns skins. Yeah, Marvel
dope.
Rivals has so much opportunity to do so many different storylines and stuff.
And they got the characters for it.
Exactly.
They got everything that they can, like handed them on a plate.
I know.
So it's like I hope they like continue on with whatever they got progress, because if they have the slightest mishap or like the fact that they'll betray themselves to be good, but like miss the opportunities to where they'll be great with like mishapping on these skins, it would be very unfortunate, because I feel like Marvel Rivals is just going up.
Yeah.
And it's up to them if they want to stay up or just go down. So.
Yeah, man. A lot of opportunity, a lot of potential.
Yeah.
He decided to continue his work to fight the war against evil and used the savings that he had collected during his mercenary days and invested it, turning it into a small fortune, which he proceeded to finance and support his private war and set up shop in New York City. In an effort to distance himself from his mercenary days, Mark created the persona of Stephen Grant, a millionaire entrepreneur and high roller whose personality enabled him to walk among the high rollers and elites of New York City. Realizing the value of these contacts, as criminal activities are often plotted and planned at cocktail parties and boardrooms, Mark also decided to create a persona for lower level contacts and invented the identity of Jake Lockley, a New York City cab driver. Through Lockley, he was able to make several contacts on the streets. So as you can clearly see, this character has a bunch of different personas, 4 to be exact: Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, and of course, Moon Knight. Juggling his different personas eventually put a serious strain on Spector's mental health, and he suffered a nervous breakdown and was deemed to be suffering from multiple personality disorder. Shortly after developing his costume and weapons, along with a customized helicopter known as the Mooncopter, Frenchie posed as a French businessman and made a contact with a group known as the Committee. They had plans to capture Jack Russell, aka Werewolf by Night, whom they intended to use as a weapon to rule the city. And this, my friends, brings us full circle, because these events happened in Moon Knight's first appearance in Werewolf by Night issue 32, and Moon Knight's origin was later given to us in his own ongoing series several years later. But now I'm going to continue to elaborate on Moon Knight's first adventure in comics, since we did come full circle after all. Frenchie acted.
That's interesting, because yeah, if you guys have seen the show they show it as they start at a different point of the story to where a lot of people aren't familiar with Moon Knight. I wasn't too familiar with Moon Knight.
I had no idea.
I seen him in a couple of games. I seen him in Ultimate Alliance and like some of the older games where they featured him. But I just assumed that it was like low key knockoff Batman at the time. You know what I mean? Which in a way, like especially with this backstory where they take, he had the money, he invested it, he created personas, he invested in his company so he can fight crime by night.
Yeah,
that sounds a lot more like Batman than the way that they did in the TV show. The TV show sounds like they took a completely different direction, and yeah, he's so mentally unstable. You know what I mean? That he created all these personas at a young age because of XYZ and XYZ. For those of you who haven't seen the show, I would highly recommend you go and check that out. It's kind of late for that now. We've already talked about it a lot, but I'd highly go and check it out, because there's still so much craziness that happens in it. So
it's just how his personas like even came to was very sad, because
don't tell him. Let him watch the show if you
it's
guys
just
haven't
very
seen
sad.
It. Yeah.
But the last one was like mind blowing to me, because I just saw the whole series. He just had 2.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I didn't know from just him explaining having 3. I didn't know there wasn't even a third one. So
yeah. Craziness.
And that's even like crazy on top of itself. So
I know.
As a middleman and presented the committee members with Mark Spector as a mercenary and revealed the Moon Knight costume and weapons which Frenchie claimed that he had created to battle Jack Russell. After Moon Knight was hired, he successfully defeated Russell, but when he discovered that the committee wanted to use the werewolf as a weapon, he released him and defeated the committee. And thus we have the vigilante, Moon Knight. Speaking of vigilante, a lot of people say he's Marvel's Batman, or just compare him to Batman because they have a lot of similarities. They're both rich, they both use gadgets to help them fight crime, and they both creep around in the shadows with their capes, fighting for justice all vigilante style. Skipping ahead a bit in Moon Knight's history, the committee hired Bushman to attack Moon Knight once again. As part of their campaign, they wanted Bushman to physically cripple him, and both Mark's legs were severely broken. I mean, just look at that. It looks like a herd of walkers were just gnawing at his knees. In any case, Bushman grew overconfident, thus leaving his guard down, so in a fit of indescribable rage, Moon Knight used one of his crescent darts to carve off Bushman's face, all Death of the Family Joker style. Unable to continue his career as Moon Knight, Mark began taking more and more painkillers and antipsychotics, burning through his fortune, and was no longer able to maintain his crumbling financial empire. Later, Spector learns that one of the struggling companies he still retains ownership of has just made a significant technological breakthrough, and he will once again be wealthy and begins to rebuild himself and his life, finally getting himself out of his wheelchair and beginning physical therapy. It's only afterwards that Mark discovered that the Egyptian god Khonshu was responsible for the entire affair. His reputation had taken a nosedive, and so Khonshu decided to ensure his Knight of Vengeance was firmly back in the saddle, nudging the committee and even arranging for Mark's wealth to be restored while reminding him who and what he is, Khonshu's Knight of Vengeance. In the Marvel Now rendition of Moon Knight, Mark utilizes two personas. The first is Moon Knight, which of course we all know, but the second persona is Mr. Knight. In this persona, he's dressed in an all-white business suit, gloves, and mask, who consults the New York Police Department and deals with common thugs and crimes such as kidnapping. And that, my friends, brings me to powers and abilities. Moon Knight possesses a wide range of skills and abilities, including military strategy and tactics, infiltration and stealth techniques.
He ripped this man's face off, bro. Like,
yeah, God. He did.
Just looking at the visual again, I'm like, Jesus fudge. The bottom, I'm like, probably gonna have to buy that graphic novel, to be honest. That shit looks too
That's
crazy.
just his regular face. I don't think that's his face that's cut off yet.
Now, see the eye holes, like where the eye part, because you can't really take, it's hard to take the skin off. So you can see it like around the head, like where all the blood is. See his teeth, because he doesn't have lips. Oof.
Gnarly.
Yeah, it's wild. Wild shit. I had to look up Bushman for a while because I was thinking like, in my head I was thinking Bushmaster from Luke Cage. And I was like, that's not the same character, is it? Bushmaster's a whole nother character. Who has an evolution and stuff like that. That's a whole, maybe we'll do Luke Cage later.
Skills and abilities including military strategy and tactics, infiltration and stealth techniques, military interrogation, and torture techniques. He's also a competent pilot who can fly most types of aircrafts. He's an expert in a wide range of military firearms, including pistols, sniper rifles, and machine guns with a marksman's rating. Moon Knight is a highly skilled combatant who is equally adept in both unarmed and armed fighting techniques. He's a former heavyweight boxing champion who has comprehensive knowledge of weak points of the human body. Moon Knight is such a skilled fighter, he even defeated Deadpool in Vengeance of Moon Knight issue 8. And due to Moon Knight's multiple identities, he has resistance to some psychic attacks. Moon Knight also loves his weapons and gadgets, and thanks to his immense wealth, he has financed and developed numerous weapons, armored costumes, devices, specialty vehicles, and equipment as Moon Knight. He has his crescent darts, which are basically his versions of batarangs. You have his truncheon, which is his version of a grappling gun, and then he uses brass knuckles with spikes on them and a katana, and so on. Moon Knight has worn a variety of body armor over the years. His default costume for years was a full bodysuit of bulletproof Kevlar that was equipped with a...
This image, that's Taskmaster on the bottom. I actually seen this comic. I think this whole series. But Taskmaster hates fighting Moon Knight because Moon Knight leans into... Moonlight likes getting hit. So Taskmaster's whole like identity is based around like avoiding punches and stuff like that. So he usually replicates people like Captain America, Spider-Man, this and that. So the fact that they can evade, he can evade, and he takes on those personas. But with Moon Knight, you see right here, like even in the comic,
he's just up close and personal.
He ends up telling Taskmaster to stab him in the eye because he's like, oh, I'd rather not dodge it. So like once he tries to read his fight, he actually gets like stabbed in his eye. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he gets stabbed in his eye, and the Moon Knight's like insane first of all, so he's like perfect, so he like feeds into that whole thing, and Taskmaster's just like, there's no point in fighting you because it's too unpredictable. Like, you like the pain of it. I don't want to get hit. You know what I mean? I don't really have the ability like you to heal and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Costume for years was a full body suit of bulletproof Kevlar that was equipped with a two-way radio in his cowl that enabled him to maintain contact with his mooncopter. And now that I've summed up his powers and abilities, clearly he's very similar to Batman. And that, my friends, pretty much wraps up my recap of Moon Knight's history. Clearly I didn't mention every story or aspect of Moon Knight, as that would be impossible since he's been around for a very long time. But to recap everything for you, Moon Knight was a dude who was brought back to life by the Egyptian lunar god of vengeance and then became a BA vigilante with a multiple personality disorder. Boom. Recapped. But you know what time it is. It's time for me to give you some reading recommendations. You have Moon Knight Divided We Fall, Vengeance of Moon Knight Volume 1 Shock and Awe, Essential Moon Knight Volume 1, Moon Knight from the Dead, and Moon Knight Dead Will Rise.
Good stuff, good stuff.
When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence.
We don't get paid by these sponsors, so we're going to skip this. He actually talks about other comics and stuff as well that you guys should buy. You know what? Let's go ahead.
First up for Wednesday, September 9th, we have Darth Vader
can't go wrong with Star Wars.
This series has been really good thus far, and it's a must-read for any Darth Vader fan. Here we have Action Comics issue 44. The epic truth story arc reaches its finale, as Superman makes some brutal choices and discovers the source of the Shadow Warriors. Now we have Batman Superman issue 24. Superman discovers the true fate of Batman and makes a fateful decision. And finally, we have Batman issue 44. It's the origin of the new villain, Mr. Bloom. In a tale from Bruce Wayne's past, Batman must investigate a vicious crime in the shadowy area of Gotham City known as the Narrows. And that'll bring another episode of Variant to a close. But remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or me on Twitter at Eris_Quinones. And if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to our channel. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. And since I did Spawn, that leaves me with...
Okay.
You will not see us next week.
We probably won't be there, but you know, we'll be in eventually. So great stuff, great stuff. Like I said, they know a lot about comics, have a lot of history, go a lot in depth about everything. And yeah, like I said, if you guys want us to continue the series, we'll keep diving into these comics, add a little bit in there from what we know, but also we just want to learn with you guys, you know, because a lot of this stuff is things that, you know, a lot of information in these that I didn't know. I didn't know the comic book that he didn't already have the personas. I thought he had the personas and became Mr. Knight and all that good stuff with that, from based off the limited that I've read. I've only read so much on Moon Knight, but yeah, I thought he already had that. I didn't know he developed that because of him creating the personas from already being Moon Knight and then it evolving over time. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, with Moon Knight, there's so many other stories too, because since he has the ability, since Khonshu, his like godlike entity that gives him his abilities, kind of watches over him, there's been a lot of iterations of Moon Knight because he'll die and then Khonshu will just bring him back to life. And that's what he meant by there's so many different stories and timelines and stuff. Like, for example, in Blood Hunt, Moon Knight's not even in this. He's technically dead. And there's a whole nother team with Tigra and Blood Hunt, which is like a new team for Moon Knight, essentially. And I think Khonshu's in prison, and it's just a whole crazy stuff. So yeah, if you guys want to find any of this stuff, check it out either online or at your local comic book shop. Support them; they're great. And yeah, that's all I really got. That's all I really got in this first episode. Shout out to Marvel Rivals, y'all brought us here. It's great stuff. Next video, we will be doing either Luna Snow, because who the fuck is that, or Cloak and Dagger, because that's also a character that a lot of people don't know about. I seen the show on Freeform way when it came out. Most people don't even know what the fuck Freeform is, but it's like Hulu, Fox. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I've seen the show, and I have a comic of Cloak and Dagger. They don't have too many comics, but we will be talking about those characters later. So if you want to find out more about that, then hit that subscribe button now.
Yep. And also join our Discord, because we're also gaming too and doing all sorts of things that you guys want to go on there and talk about with us too.
Yep.
If you want us to more jump into Marvel Rivals, we're more than happy to. So
yes, we actually started a channel there, so good stuff, man. All right, y'all. That's all we got.
Until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Much love. Peace.